Hi, this is Mr. Moreau, and I'll be conducting the indicator tests for my own sample of vomit for our Unknowns Vomit Lab. So what I've got here is the Benedict's test, which, as you recall, tests for monosaccharides, the iodine test, which tests for polysaccharides, and the Biuret's test, which tests for the presence of proteins. First of all, I'm going to give my sample a nice stir in order to make sure I get a uniform sample in each of my 3 test tubes. And then I'll put a few drops of my vomit sample into each of these 3 test tubes. Next, for the indicator tests. First, I'll begin with Benedict's. I'll put a certain amount in to this test tube. And as you may recall, the Benedict's test does require heat in order to work, so I'm going to be putting it into this beaker of boiling water. While that's going, let's move on to the iodine test, which, as you can see, starts out as a kind of ugly brownish yellow. And when I add it to my sample, we do have a change. So you can see the difference between the original color and the color in the test tube after I mix them together. I'll do the same for the Biuret's test. This one does not have as obvious as a change, so I'll add twice the amount as usual. I'll stir this up a bit. And as you can see, the original Biuret's color at the beginning is more of a royal blue. When I added it to my vomit sample, we can see a purple color has appeared. Let's go back to the Biuret's test. So after that amount of time, we can see very clearly that after my sample spent a good amount of time in the hot beaker, the original royal blue color did change to an orange color. And that was the Benedict's test. So I had Benedict's test did change from blue to orange. Iodine did change from that ugly yellow to a dark brownish purple black. And my Biuret's test did change from a royal blue to a purple. And my final test is for lipids. Now there's a few different ways to test for lipids. One could be using the paper bag test to see if the spot dries. But another, when we have a large sample like this, is to see whether or not we have separation of layers in our sample. So if I hold this beaker up, I stirred this only moments ago. Do you see separate layers in this sample? Have the oils and fats separated from the aqueous or watery parts of this solution? Do you see separate layers? And that's a good way to test to see whether or not this sample does contain lipids. If you do see separation, you know that it does contain lipids because lipids will not mix with water. They will separate into separate layers. And that concludes the indicator tests for Mr. Moreau's sample. Thank you.